So, as you know, and we have been warning for a while now, the Tories have been ready to strip away EU environmental protections, which, remember, they promised post Brexit they would not touch, and only our environmental protections would only go higher. Just like many promises made in the haze of the 2016 referendum have once again proven to be absolutely false. However, this story sort of has two angles to it, where now we have this passing, of course, in the Commons, it has come to the Lords, and the Lords have firmly rejecting it, with the Labour, Green, and Lib Dem MPs all allying and saying unanimously, we will not let you um, essentially build by deregulation, which I think is a really, really important fact to try and get across. You can, in many instances, build on riversides with the current rules as they stand. Even Natural England wrote to one of the lords and said, yeah, current rules as they are fine. You can build along riversides and do this. So long as you build this in a certain way, you can still do it. It's not impossible to do, as Rishi Sunak claims that we could be building all these houses by rivers. Only if we got rid of these pesky nutrient regulations. And bear in mind, because we have those current regulations, because we have those rules, we have had developments built by rivers, built in these areas that have not increased river pollution because they are following the rules and regulations. And yet, oh, see, we don't need these rules and regulations at all because it shows, it's all fine. But if you get rid of them, what do you think's going to happen? So, before we go into the story a bit more, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page and a notification link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can buy me coffee. There is the YouTube thank you button, and of course, there is the Pony Club as well. So, on with this then. Yeah, this is, of course, as I always remind you, whenever we get good news from the House of Lords, don't worry, I am, as always, celebrating a win. But I will always still and always will maintain, look, House of Lords is well past its sell-by date. Just because it does a good thing every so often, like this, does not mean it should be retained. It needs to be fully swept away and created an actual elected body. We've talked about the various ways in the past that we can reform the House of Lords and replace it with an elected body. Something certainly I would hope that maybe Keir Starmer and Labour would be looking at. Maybe not this time, but next time. Certainly, I think this would be a big win for democracy and would certainly bring a big change to our democracy. But in this regard, we have had a very big win, and this has really completely sent the message to the Tories: we will not allow you to rip up EU rules and regulations. And now they are probably going to try and find any other way they can to get around these rules and regulations. I am really, really happy because environmental groups, they have all really united on this and sent the message to the House of Lords, to these Labour, the Green, and of course the Lib Dem peers as well, saying, hey, you need to vote against this. This is not good. If not, you are going to unleash a ton of environmental damage. And very often with these environmental damages, once they are done, they can take years, if not decades, to try and undo. So that's at least one key piece of good news. And I will definitely celebrate Angela Rayner getting involved in this because she had something to say about this. Where is she? Here she is. Yep. So Angela Rayner said that the defeat in the Lords have shown that the Tories have utterly failed in their attempt to score the cheap political points with a flawed plan. We stand ready to sit down with the government, the house builders, and the environmental groups to try and work on a workable solution to build the homes that we need. So this was the rule that was was defeated by 203 to 156. This was a majority of 47. So you can see this was a big win. The Lords, and has certainly upset this. Now, of course, what's going to happen is this is going to go back to the Commons. We will see what amendments get made, if any amendments get made, whether this just gets put to sleep. We've seen in the past that Rishi Sunak really is too weak a prime minister to even try maybe amending these rules to make sure it would pass in the Lords. But anything like that would certainly mean allying and keeping the EU rules and regulations. And of course, the current Tory party doesn't want to do that. So ultimately, what I think is this will get lost, shall we say, in the long grass, I highly suspect. But another thing I want to, of course, quote is the Green Party peer, Jenny Jones, who would say this because she led this rebellion. This is what she had to say. If the government are so desperate to add to the unacceptable levels of pollution in the water, they can bring the measures back in a separate bill as part of the King's speech. They can then consult properly and justify it to the public who are already fed up with polluted local rivers and beaches. If I was the Prime Minister, I wouldn't relish having a conversation with King Charles about the horrendous state of the country's waterways. And that is very, very, very true. Charles has been very, very much a champion of the environment, especially prior to being, becoming monarch. Whether he will continue with that has been a lot of people's minds. Whether he will, continue with this, we'll see. But it will be interesting to see if he does continue with that. Like, so obviously he is the king, and of course him getting involved in politics has been the big worry for many people. But that is something that he has had a big passion about, the UK environment. So we'll see. But this is a big win. This was a very good win, and I highly suspect now this is going to go back into the long grass. I don't think Sunak has the political will, or at least the pull in the party, to be able to make the changes to really get this bill through the Lords. But certainly, you can now see that the Lords, if this bill did try to come back, they would be ready, of course, and it would just become as normal parliamentary ping pong, just knocking it back and forth with different bills and amendments. I think this bill is dead. I think these two bills ultimately they're not going to happen, and I think ripping up these EU laws, well, they're probably now going to try and find other ways to try and do that. We've seen and heard from a lot of Tories that they know they do not have, shall we say, much time left, and I worry now that they could go into just pure wrecking ball mode. That this will just be, we know this might be our last, shall we say, crack at the whip. Our last chance to really hold the reins of power for some time. So we need to do as much stuff as quickly as possible, and damn the consequences. That would be worrying if that's the attitude that takes place. But luckily, this is why we have the House of Lords. Indeed, these two river pollution bills that were, again, oh yes, we're going to build all these houses, but actually we're going to secretly slip in the mass pollution of rivers that these might cause. In this case, the House of Lords has come through and has stopped this bill going through, which again we should celebrate. But that is, as I've said, by no means we should keep the House of Lords. But like I say, celebrate the win when we get it. So this ultimately good news, not very good for, of course, Rishi Sunak, and certainly many of the Tories who would love to go, like I say, full wrecking ball mode and start tearing up a ton of different EU regulation. And one of the things that was pointed out, I think it was by, I think it was Greenpeace, I can't remember which group said it, this would be one of the biggest deregulations of environmental protection in over 30 years. So it speaks volumes to what they were really trying to do. And I'm really glad that the Lords in this case managed to rally together and defeat this bill, because it was definitely very, very much needed. So As always, thank you very much for watching. Please do remember to click the like, share, and subscribe button on your way out. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.